You bring a book, but
Okay.
yes, a book is always good.
Is your son still enjoying the book?
He read it.
Oh, he finished it. Oh, good.
That's what he says. I didn't test him on it yet.
Well, you would probably know. Did you know him or his shop?
I do the book. Okay, we are ready to start. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Parsha class. It's Parsha's Tetzaveh. And it's also a special evening tonight. On the Jewish calendar, we just entered the 7th of Adar.
Moses.
Zion Odar. Zion Odar is the day which marks the birth and the yahrzeit of one of the greatest, or the greatest person that we had in our history as Jews, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, who was born and died on Shiva Be'adar. And we are also exactly a week away from the holiday of Purim, which is going to be also Wednesday night, this coming week. To the famous Gemara, the Gemara says in Masechet Megillah, says the Gemara in regarding to the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu and Purim, says the Gemara Tana, it was taught by our Talmudic sages, Kivan shenafal pur b'chodesh Adar, samach Haman simcha gdola. As we know that the word Purim, which marks the holiday of Purim, is a word which is being translated in the Megillah. It's a word which comes in context with the story of Purim. Haman, when he was able to convince Achashverosh to materialize his evil plan, the decree, להשמיד, להרוג ולאבד את כל היהודים מנער ועד זקן, טף ונשים ביום אחד, to destroy, to kill, to get rid of all Jews in one day. That was the plan of Haman. But he did not know when is the best time to actualize his decree. Usually, when you go to wage war, so you also have to consider the date, the time. You have to plan your attack accordingly. Right? You have to make sure that the weather would not be a problem. We all know in the recent history what it meant for the Germans to march into Russia in the time of snow. That cost them it a lot of lives. You have to know when to fight. This is a part of the strategics, is to figure out the right time. Haman also knew that even though he will make up a date, he still needs to have a good date. A date which will so-called work for him, work for his plan. What date is a good date? So what he thought to himself, the best thing would be what you do in things in times like this, and you can't figure out what to do. So there's something called goral. What is goral? In English it means you threw lots. Huh?
Yes.
You write on a note, this option, that option, third option. You mix those papers together, you close your eyes, you put your hand in, you take out one, and you rely that whatever the goral is, this is the best sign from above that will work for your plan. Haman decided that this is probably the best way to figure out when to have the greatest success for his plan. But the Megillah says, he pil pur hu agoral. He threw lots, pur, and the Megillah translates what he spur, shtot hakoya pur, says the Megillah, hu agoral. If you want to know what pur means goral. Goral, what's goral mean? Today we have to take it to the next level, to the next stage. And what is goral? Goral in English means lots. Says the Gemara that when he threw the lots, what did Haman do? He took 12 small pieces of paper and he wrote down the 12 Hebrew months. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, every month. You want to look it up, it's in Tractate Megillah, page 13b. And then he took out a note, and what did the note say? Adar. Once it said Adar, says the Gemara, Samach, Simcha Gdola. Haman was rejoiced with great, with overwhelming joy. Amar, he said, Nafal li pur bayerach shemet bo Moshe. The lot came out at the best month possible. You know what happened in Adar? Adar is the month that we had experienced the passing of Moshe. Moshe's death. What can be more aggravating? What can be more upsetting? What can be more difficult for Am Yisrael, for the Jewish people, to lose their great Rebbe, their great leader, their great tzaddik, the one who presented them with the Torah at Sinai, the one who took them out of Egypt? Must be a very sad day. And if he died in the month of Adar, Haman started celebration. This is it. It's going to work. Velo haya yodea, says the Gemara, but Haman did not know, which he wasn't aware of, שבשבעה באדר מת ובשבעה באדר נולד. He did not know that what happened is not only that Moses died on the 7th of Adar, but also that Moshe was born on the 7th of Adar. So I want to ask you a question. How did he know that Moshe Rabbeinu died on the 7th of Adar? He probably looked at a Jewish calendar. He went on Chabad.org and he looked on the historical events which took place on the 7th of Adar. And they told them that on 7th of Adar marks the passing of Moshe. But if you look on Chabad.org, it will tell you that on 7th of Adar also celebrates the birth of Moshe. I mean, what was it? What is the meaning? Was it just lack of information? It was a technical issue that Haman simply did not know that historical factor that Moses was also born on the 7th of Adar? Was it just hidden from them? Or maybe because they didn't celebrate birthdays, like our dear friend David, and that's why nobody knew that this is the time that Moshe Rabbeinu was born?
No.
I'm sure Moshe celebrated his birthday. Moshe was a Lubavitcher Chassid, and every Lubavitcher Chassid knows that the Rebbe wanted to celebrate our birthdays. So we didn't only celebrate yahrzeits, we celebrate birthdays too. So if you would have walked into a Jewish community and asked, tell me, what happened on the 7th of Adar? Every child would tell him, 7th of Adar, it's Moshe Rabbeinu's Yortzai, and it is also Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. This is common knowledge. Especially when a birthday and a Yortzai occurs on the same day, it is obviously much more known and appreciated by the masses, knowing that this is unique, right? To have someone who died on the very same day he was born. You don't have to remember 2 dates. So it's obviously giving you more an opportunity to know about it. So what does it mean that Lo haya yodea? He did not know. He really didn't know. Is it so hard for him to know that the fact that you have to say that Lo haya yodea? Obviously, this is something which we have to explain. Question number 2, a question which is being asked by the Rebbe, and I spoke about it last week. They gave me the opportunity the last Shabbat. Usually, I went to Israel, as you all know, the last week. My mother celebrated her 70th birthday. So all of us were there. On Shabbat day, my parents daven in 2 different synagogues. My father goes to a later synagogue, davens later. My mother goes to synagogue, davens earlier. So she goes to one shul, he goes to a different shul. They meet up later by lunch at some time late in the afternoon. But in early mornings, each one goes to their own shuls. But in honor of my mother, so usually we all daven with the later minyan. My father, whenever I come to Israel, I go over my father daven. But now, since it was my mother's birthday, so we all decided, all the brothers, and everybody is going to daven, including my father. We're going to daven at the synagogue where my mother davens. They were very excited to see such a group, a large group of people coming to join them. So they offered me to represent the family in giving the speech. They do it before Torah reading. We do it after Torah reading. They do it before Torah reading. So I should deliver a speech before Torah reading. A big shul, a lot of people. So I got up there and I spoke. So I spoke about that question which I'm going to share with you now. A question which was asked by the Rebbe. The Rebbe asks, getting in again to Amon's mind. Amon threw lots. And he was very happy to find out that it came out in a month which it experiences the loss of Moshe. So I guess someone was familiar with Jewish history. Says the Rebbe, there are much better months than the month of Adar, which Haman could have been just as excited and even more excited if the lot would have been fallen on that month. For example, take the month of Av. Av, Mishenichnas Av, min ma'atim v'simcha. And the month of Av comes in with decrease in all our joyful experiences. This is a Jewish national mourning month. We mourn the Churban, the destruction of the temples. The story of Purim happened after the Churban Bayit Rishon, right? After the Bet HaMikdash was already destroyed. So he knew already that the temple was destroyed. He knew already that the Jews are very sad when month of Av comes in. So he could have been much happier to know that this is perhaps a very sad month, a very unlucky month for the Jews. Av would have been perfect to try to get rid of them. It says in Shulchan Aruch, it says in the Code of Jewish Law, that in the month of Av, a teacher should not be aggravated on his students. Sometimes a teacher gets aggravated and then gets upset. In the olden days, in the Cheder, when the teacher was having difficulty in Parnasa, many times a teacher was away from his family. They called Hamelamed. The Melamed, the Rebbe, used to teach a group of kids. Sometimes he was away from his family for months, 5-6 months, tried to earn a few kopkes. They were very poor, frustrated people sometimes. And they sometimes expressed their frustration on the kids, unfortunately. And the kids knew how to get on their nerves too. So the Shulchan Aruch says, teachers, whatever your frustration is, in the month of Av, keep your hands to yourself. Be very careful, because this is not a good time to get aggravated. It's a time of dinim, of judgment, severity. We don't get into new deals in the Av. There's no weddings in the first part of the month of Av. And we keep away from everything. If not Av, Tammuz is also a perfect month. For Amon's plans, Tammuz. You know what happened on Tammuz? Before even the destruction of the temple. The breaking of the luchos. The shattering of the tablets took place on 17th of Tammuz. 17th of Tammuz. 17th of Tammuz was 40 days after Moshe came up to Har Sinai. And he came down, and as we're going to read next week in the Torah portion, Parshas Kisisa, Cheito Egel, the sin of the golden calf, the luchos were shattered and broken into pieces. God is upset. He says, I will never forget what you did to me. Every time, pogdi pokadeti, as much that God gave in to Moshe's prayers, but at the end of the day, Hashem still said, oh no, every time I will remember something bad that you are doing, I will have to also take into account the fact that you sinned for the golden calf. It is always playing against us. Haman, you know Jewish history. You know what happened in the month of Av. Oh, that's a very good month to try Tammuz. Tammuz is a good month to get the Jews into trouble. Lama Tammuz? Because Tammuz is when the luchas were broken. So the Rebbe asked, why is the Simcha Gdolah? Why is this great joy coming in Adar? It would have been just as good in Av, and also more so in Tammuz. This is the death of Moshe, and here you have the breaking of the luchos. God is so angry and upset. He's ready to get rid of us. Right? Pashat Kitisa, next week you're going to see what? Fire! Fire! Oman sees other. What happened in Adar? And what does it mean not knowing that Moshe's birthday was in Adar? So we have to speak a little bit about Moshe. Tonight, after all, is his yahrzeit. Abraham knows that when it comes to a yahrzeit, we speak about the person who died.
His birthday too.
On a birthday you speak too, but on a yahrzeit for sure you speak, right? So we have to speak and analyze a little bit who Moshe was. You want to have the best story about Moshe? There's a lot of good stories about Moshe. From the moment that he was born, it says in the Parsha that his mother saw that he is good. Rashi says, what does it mean that he is good? How good was he? How does a mother see every baby is born is good? You ever saw a baby being born and the mother says, God forbid, it's not good? Shem Shmor. What happened that the mother says that she saw is good? What does Rashi say? Nismale abayis kuloi oiro. The house was filled entirely with light. Moshe, the little baby, just emerged from its mother's womb, from Yocheved. Right? She just gave birth to him. And somehow the light is filled, the house is filled with oiro. La Yehudim oiso oiro. The house is filled with light. Imagine, turn the light off, and a little baby comes in, and like a projector, like a diamond, shats light to the entire room. That's what happened when Moshe was born. But this is the story of Moshe. You want to know the story of Moshe? You got to look in this week's Parsha. What happens in this week's Parsha? This week's Parsha, the Torah begins on page 464, Ve'ato Tetzaveh Bnei Yisrael. Now Hashem says to Moshe, you shall command the children of Israel, Ve'ikhu elecho shemen zayit zoch kosis lamoyer, and they shall take for you pure pressed olive oil for illumination, lahalis neton. 3 verses later, Ve'ato akre bilecho. Now you bring near to yourself Aaron, your brother, and his sons with him, to introduce them as Kohanim. Make them clothes, Vasita Bigdei Kodesh. So we have then the description of the garments, the vestments of the Kohanim, of the priests. Then the whole order of anointment, of the inauguration to them as Kohanim. Ve'asita, ve'asita, ve'asita. You should make this, you should make that. All the way till the end of the Parsha. It's a short Parsha, 101 psukim. Ve'asita mizbeach mikta ktores. You shall make a mizbeach, an altar, to which you bring incense upon them. My dear friends, I'm sure you all know that this is the only Parsha in the Torah from the beginning of Shemot till Simchas Torah next year, when we're going to finish up Bezot HaBracha in the Deuteronomy. The only Parsha in Torah that the name of Moshe Rabbeinu is not mentioned even once. Never from the time of Moshe's birth on Parshat Shemot is there a Parsha which does not have his name. This is the Parsha which does not mention his name once. Parshat Tetzaveh. And some commentaries actually would say that the reasoning is to do with the fact that now is the 7th of Adar, and Moshe Rabbeinu died. It's a yard site of Moshe. And when Moshe Rabbeinu died, this is just as appropriate to share a Parsha, we're not mentioning him. Just as he disappeared physically, his name disappears physically from this Parsha. Zayin of Adar, the Yom Ptira, the day of his passing. Parshas Tetzaveh is also Moshe gets hidden. Moshe gets tucked away. We don't know, we don't hear. When Moshe died, Velo yada ish et kvurato, nobody knows where he was buried. Right? He went up on the mountain and never came back. It was all hidden. It was all covered. It was all veiled. And this is what happens in this Parsha. Moshe's name is veiled too. We don't see him. His name is not here. But nevertheless, in other commentaries, especially the way it's explained in Chassidus, the name of Moshe is not mentioned because this week's Parsha brings out the best story of Moshe, which the story represents the so-called the essence of Moshe, the etzem of Moshe, which is above even his name. The part of Moshe which is nameless. What is a name? Why do people have names? For yourself, you don't need a name. You can communicate to yourself without needing to be called something. You can tell yourself stories, you can share information with yourself, and you don't need a name for it. You speak to yourself, you think to yourself, you do to yourself. A name is to communicate to someone else. A name is representing the person relating to others. The name is not the essence of a person. Yes, a name is a strong connection to a person. The name represents, if I want to refer to you, I need to have a name for you. Who are you? Who are you speaking to? Speaking to him, speaking to here, who are you speaking to? When there is a name, then you can relate, you know who you're speaking to. The nameless, when there is no name, it doesn't mean that the person is lost, the person disappeared. When there is no name, means that now we are dealing with the essence, with the nucleus aspect of the person, the etzem and the neshama, which is above names. Matter of fact, the Rebbe says somewhere that the word, the name of the Parsha is Tetzaveh. What's the numerical value, the gematria of the word Tetzaveh? Taf is 400, and Tzadik is 90, and Vav is 6, and Hey is 5. So the word Tetzaveh is 501, right? How many names does the neshama have, the soul? Remember we spoke about the 5-dimensional soul. Every soul has 5 names. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. 5 names. In the Bible there's 5 names, which each name represents another aspect of soul. But the completion of each neshama, of each soul, is in its 10 components, the 10 elements of the soul, especially the way each one of the 10 is reaching its completion, which is 100, right? 10 times Chokhmah, 10 times Bina, Chokhmah shebe-Chokhmah, Bina shebe-Chokhmah, Gvura shebe-Chokhmah. Same thing in Bina, Chesed, Chesed shebe-Chesed, Chokhmah. So a full number for a soul is 100, right? When you complete, which number are you when you complete? Shleimut. What is Shleimut? Perfection? Mea. 100 is perfection. So a person which is activating all 5 aspects of soul, which number do you give him? 500. 500 for 100 for nefesh, 100 for ruach, 100 for neshama, 100 for chaya, 100 for yechida, 500. And then you go to 501. 501 is already the one which is above the 500. The one which is the essence of the full cycle of completion of the 5 levels of soul. While they all represent their own entire completion, you go to one level higher. This is the 501. This is Tetzaveh. What is the Parsha starting up? Ve'ato Tetzaveh. Says Chassidus, you know what Ve'ato means? Hashem speaks to Moshe and he said, Moshe, now we're not going to talk about you, Moshe, the way you are represented in your name, Moshe. Even though Moshe is a great name, the name of the great tzaddik. Now we are going to speak and represent Moshe the way you are referred to with the word ve'ata, and you. Who is you? My you and my I, which is nameless, above name. God also has a name like this, which doesn't represent him by name. What is God's name when he's not called by name? And when was it used to? Anybody knows? Huh?
78.
What?
78.
78 is a name. That's Elohim. That's for sure a name. I'm talking a nameless name, which God is using as his name at the one time in history. Oh, no, that's also a name. Tetzaveh is nature. What is the first word that God says when he represents the first of the 10 commandments? Huh? I, Anoichi. Says the Holy Zohar Kadosh, Anochi, I am. Then comes Hashem, then comes Elokecha. Says the Holy Zohar, what's Anoichi? Anoichi means Mishe Anoichi. I am who I am. I am the I. The lo yidrames b'shum shem, b'shum ois, u'b'shum kotz klal. That's the words of the Zohar. He is not even hinted by a name, or by a letter, ot, or by even the crown of the letter. By the opening of the letter. Shum davar. What's your name? I. I. I'm not asking you who you are. I'm asking what's your name. I am Anoichi. You have a name? Yes. You want to hear my names? Hashem, Elokecha, etc., etc. But if you want to talk to me as my essence, I don't have a name. There is an element in me which is higher and transcends names, above names. This is the Anoichi. This is what the way God revealed himself when he was representing the first of the Aseres Adibros of the Ten Commandments by saying the word Anoichi. Anoichi, Misha Anoichi. I am who I am. And this is the story of tonight. Moshe's greatest value is when his name is hidden and is referred to just with the word Ve'ata Tetzaveh. Why did Moshe merit it to such an important point in life that God should refer to him only as Ve'ata without his name? What did Moshe do that he deserved to get to one point in his life and God says, ooh, wah, now I'm going to introduce you as you are by yourself and by your essence. The point of Moshe, which is even greater than names. So our sages tell us what happened. It's going to happen only next week. But this week is when it could work. Let me explain what I'm saying. Next week, the Jewish people are going to perform the worst of all scenes, known as the Chet Egel, the scene of the golden calf. And God is very, very aggravated. God wants to get rid of them all. Clearly. Very, very upset. Anicholi v'yicharapi bohem v'achalem. Let me just destroy them, Hashem tells to Moshe. Moshe is trying very hard. He found it difficult. He found it difficult to advocate for the Jewish people. Then finally he sees that it doesn't go anywhere. You know what he says next week's Parsha? We're not going to have class next week. We're going to be reading the Megillah and celebrating Purim. So it's good to know what next week's Parsha says. If you turn to page 500, verse 31, Vayashav Moshe el Hashem vayomar, and Moshe returns to Hashem, and he says, Ana, Chata, perhaps you're right. You people have committed a severe sin. Very bad. Ve'ato, he tells God, listen to me. Im tisochatoso, if you would be forgiving their sin, okay. But ve'im ayin, if not, Moshe tells God, mecheini no misifrecho asher kosaft. Erase me now from your book that you have written. לא רוצה להיות פה בספר הזה. Moshe Rabbeinu tells God, listen, I don't want to be a part of this book if you cannot forgive the Jewish people. You know what it means for Moshe to have his name erased from the book of the Torah? Moshe's whole being was about Torah. Moshe's name is completely associated with Torah to the point that it's called Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe. Zichru Torahs Moshe. It's all about Moshe. And Moshe Rabbeinu is ready to stand up there and he says, God, Tiso no chatoso. Ve'im ayin, but if not, no. Take a eraser and delete my name completely from this Torah. Why? Is there anything greater than Torah? Moshe Rabbeinu is so committed to the people that he is ready to put the Torah on the side and the person is going to come first. Davar Rishon, first thing, Am Yisrael. Is there a Torah if there is no one to command the Torah to? The old Torah is Daber Bnei Israel, Tzavet Bnei Israel. If you're not ready to keep Bnei Israel, so don't give me no Torah. My whole life is two things. My people and my Torah. And you want to know who comes first? My people come first. Take me away. Delete my name. I don't want to be a part of it. You know what kind of serious nefesh? What kind of self-sacrifice this reflects in the life of Moshe? So if you want to know, when you are being asked, tell me your best story about Moshe. I didn't say your favorite story. Favorite story, everybody has their favorite story. Someone likes the story that he was hitting the Egyptian and put him under the sand. I can see someone liking that story. Someone likes the splitting of the sea. Someone likes the manna. Someone likes the running to Midian. There's all such beautiful stories about Moshe in the book of Moshe. You can have your favorite story. But what is the best story? What is the best, choiciest story that brings out who really Moshe is? You know what Moshe's best story is? If you're not ready to forgive them, erase my name. What does God do when he hears these words? Hashem said, the end, as we all know, we are still around today. What happened to Moshe's word? So the Talmud says, Kilelat tzaddik afilu al t'nai iba. When a tzaddik verbalizes in his own mouth words of curse, even if it was conditional, it would still have an effect. If the very fact that Moses said those words, take me out from your book, he didn't order God to take out his name. It was a conditional statement. If you don't forgive them, then take me out from your book. But the fact that he said those words, take me out of your book, it has an effect. There's an impact. And the impact is that the last portion, before he said those words, his name had to be deleted. Tetzaveh is the last Parsha before Kisisa. So from that Parsha is his name deleted. But Chassidus says no. Yes, his name was deleted. But his name, Moshe, was not deleted. Only his name was deleted. But the real Moshe, the Ato, this is full alive. The real Moshe exists in Parshat Tetzaveh more than it exists in any other place in the Torah. Because you have him the way he's described with other name. Greater than name. Above names. Name is a label. You label him here, you label him these. You know the story with the Alter Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek? The Tzemach Tzedek was sitting on the Alter Rebbe's lap as a kid. And I guess they were discussing something. And the Alter Rebbe asked the Tzemach Tzedek, "Wo is Zayde? Where is Grandpa?" So he grabbed him by his beard. So the Alter Rebbe says, "No, this is Zayde's beard. I want to know where Zayde is." So he touched him by his nose. The Alter Rebbe says, "No, this is Zayde's nose. I'm asking you, where is Zayde? Where is Dadushka? Zayde, Grandpa. Eyes. This is Zayde's eyes." No, the child doesn't answer anymore. Takes him, removes him from his lap. As the Alter Rebbe is moving, starts to walk out of his room, the little boy gives a call, "Zaydi!" The Alter Rebbe turns around, goes to Tzemach Tzedek and says, "Oh, this is Zaydi." This is Zaydi. This is not the beard, it's not the nose. It's when the whole being is there, the essence. Oh, Zayda. That is Moshe. Moshe is Ve'ato. Ve'ato, Tetzaveh. Moshe deserves to get a Parsha on the week of his Yortzeit. Zayin Oder. Not to be referred to just by Moshe, but to be referred to as Ato Tetzaveh. Ve'ato Tase. You. I'm not going to call you a name, but I know that you are greater than your name. You deserve the title when you were ready to give yourself completely away, be erased from anything associating with the Torah, when you stood for the Am Yisrael, the Jewish people. And for which people did you stand up for? I think he was standing up for the tzaddikim, for the rabbanim, for the rabbis. No. He stood up for people who just now had committed to a sin which is considered the worst of all sins. Chet or Egel. For those very people, Moshe Rabbeinu stands up and he says, "Ve'im ayin mecheini no misifrecha asher kasafta." Erase me. The lesson of Avas Yisrael. But by the way, the same idea is in the story of Purim, in the Megillah. Next week, Wednesday night, we're all going to be here to read and to hear the reading of the Megillah of Esther. And we all know who performed the miracle of Purim? God. And if you're going to read chapter by chapter next week, and you follow your Megillahs, then you're not going to find God's name mentioned even once. In some commentaries, I think the Ibn Ezra says that the reason why Hashem, the sages took out the name of God, because they didn't want the Persians should put, God forbid, in their translation of the story, put the name of their idols. And Chassidus says, God's name is not mentioned because the story of Purim comes from such a high place, from such a holy source, which is related and connected to the Onoichi, to the essence of God, which is above names. The nameless Megillah is not because we are just hiding him. It is hidden because it represents the highest level of godliness where there is no name. There is the essence, the Atzmus Mehus, the essence of God, which is nameless. Sometimes you get to that level, to that point, because the Jews in Shushan, as the Alter Rebbe says in the Kutatera, in Torah, the Jews in Shushan stood with such a mesirus nefesh, with such a commitment of self-sacrifice, not to give in to Haman, that they deserved a miracle which came from a place which is nameless. Nameless. No name of God in the entire Megillah. No name of Moshe in this entire Parsha. This is not a deficiency. This is reaching the greatest level, the greatest heights. And now we are coming back to what we started our class. The question, what happened to Haman not knowing about the birthday? The Rebbe, first of all, says something very interesting. I don't think anybody else says it. I didn't see it. The Rebbe says the simcha, the joy of Haman, was not only technically that there was a yortzeit in this month, Moshe's yortzeit. Moshe's yortzeit comes as a result of something else. What was it? Moshe Rabbeinu, before he died, today, and yesterday, and as the Medrash said, it actually started in Rosh Chodesh Adar, the last 7 days of his life. You know what Moshe Rabbeinu did? That was the last day he wrote the Torah. The last 7 days. You know what Moshe Rabbeinu did? Says the Medrash, when it says in the Torah, "V'etchanan el Hashem ba'et ha'i," that Moshe Rabbeinu was praying and davening and pleading with God, "Let me into Eretz Yisrael." You know how many times he prayed? Rashi says, "Keminyan ve'etchanan."
500.
The numerical value of Etchanan, 515 prayers. That doesn't happen in 1 minute. It davens. Take me into the land. And what does God tell him? You pray so hard. What's going to happen? What happens in the end?
He expired.
What happens? Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Does he get his wish? No. Is his prayer accepted? Seemingly no. No, he doesn't go into Eretz Yisrael. He does not go into Eretz Yisrael. And he dies. That was the great simcha of Haman. Because Haman was very nervous. You know what Haman was nervous about? Haman was nervous, I'm going to make a gzeira. I'm going to make a decree. And what are the Jews going to do? They're going to go and pray. And what happens when you pray? The decree might disappear. So what am I going to have with my decrees if they're going to pray and take my decrees away?
So it was Talmud Chacham.
And then it comes Adar, and Haman sees Adar. You know what Adar means? Adar means you pray, and your prayer is not accepted. You get a fig. That's what happens in Adar. What's the proof? Moshe died. Moshe died means that his prayers were not accepted. Tammuz, if it will fall out on Tammuz, Tammuz is a tragic month. But they can still pray and be forgiven. Just like Moshe prayed in Tammuz and they were forgiven. Oh, it's a tragic month. But they can still pray and fix it. There's going to be a third temple. There was a second temple after the first temple. But other Moshe davened, and what happened? Nothing happened. So that is a perfect month. Samach Simcha Gdolah. I'm very happy. This is the month which is going to work the best. Velo haya yodea, but he does not know that Moshe was born. What does it mean he didn't know? If he died, he has to be born sometime. Says Rashi in Megillah. You know what Rashi says? Kedaya leida shetechaper al hamita. The birth of Moshe is not just a simple birth. It's a type of birth which removes any residue of death. Moshe never died. Yes, there's a yortzeit, and technically it's not here, but it's very, very technical. Moshe Rabbeinu lo imes. Talmud tells us, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe doesn't die. Moshe's prayers did not work for Moshe in the physical sense of him entering Eretz Yisrael, but all the prayers continued working. There are Jews in Israel today. You know how many Jews are there? Because Moshe Rabbeinu davened. Everything that Moshe does is eternal. From the moment Moshe was born, Moshe Rabbeinu's life continues to be a life. It's not about the fact that his birthday was also on the 7th of Adar. Like I said before, Aman could have looked in on Chabad.org and look at the historical events of today, and he would see that today is Moshe's birthday. But Aman didn't understand what does it mean, a birthday for Moshe. A birthday for Moshe is not a day that you are celebrating your birthday, which might end up with death. This is not the most joyous day of life. How does King Solomon say? Tov Yom HaMavet mi Yom Hivoldo. The day that a person dies is much greater and happier than the day he was born. Because when you were born, you still don't know what kind of life are you going to live. Yom Asal, Yom Basal. You know, every day you can live a different type of life. The Yetzer Hara one day gets on you, the Yetzer Tov gets the next day on you. A life is life. To have a birthday is not the most exciting thing. It's still very, very confusing. But once you die, and you see who the person lived 80, 90 good years, says King Solomon, that's a time of celebration. Tov Yom HaMavet b'Yom Hivoldo. This is by common people, not by Moshe. Moshe, from the moment he was born, Ismale Abayis Kuloi Oiro. The house was filled of light. Moshe Rabbeinu's life is a life which continues till today. Everything we have is because of Moshe. The Torah is the 5 books of Moses. Eretz Yisrael, it says in the Kabbalah and the Chassidus that God told Moshe to come up on the mountain and to take a look on the land. It wasn't just to take a peek so you can see the scenery of the land. It was the holiness of Moshe's eyes which penetrated and brought permanent Kedusha, permanent holiness to the land of Israel. Moshe's eyes. Everything that Moshe came in contact was permanent. Maaseh and Moshe Nitzchim never ends. It can be hidden, it can be covered, it can be veiled, but never ends. And this is the Kidah Yom HaLeila. This is the type of birth that Haman never understood. He doesn't know what it means to be born and to remain alive. He knows you're born, and you die, and it's all over. That's why, what's the most important thing? When do you know what the person was? You look at him when he died. What kind of person he was. You can't celebrate the day he's born. Moshe Rabbeinu, you celebrate the birthday. So Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and from the moment he was born to be a forever. To be that messenger, the Shliach Hashem, to bring the inspiration and the guidance of Almighty God for all generations to come. Every nuance in the Torah comes from Moshe. Kol ma shetalmid vatik atik lechadesh nitan leMoshe miSinai was already given from Moshe Rabbeinu. So now tonight that we are celebrating the birth of Moshe. But the birth of Moshe removes any residue of his death. The birth of Moshe, which might be not mentioned by name, just like his death represents disappearance. But nevertheless, like we spoke, this Parsha represents his name in full force, Ve'ato Tetzaveh. So too tonight, and the story of the 7th of Adar brings out the birth of Moshe more than ever. It's not about his death, it's about his life, and the life which continues. And as we're getting ready for Purim, a week from today, time to remind everybody to prepare themselves for Purim. First of all, this week is Shabbos Zocher. It's the reading of the erasing of Amalek, the one who tried to fight Moshe. And we are commanded every year to raise them. It's a biblical reading that everybody is invited to come to Shul to hear the story of Zohar. And then we're going to continue on Wednesday night next week. We're going to get together here for Ma'ariv and the end of the fast. We're going to read the Megillah right away when the fast ends. We called it for 6:15, but we're going to have Ma'ariv. We'll start the Megillah at 6:30, God willing, followed by the break of the fast and the celebration with the old Purim Malachas. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night and a good Shabbos and a Freilach on 7th of Adar and a Freilach on Purim.